Hi, my
Yeah.
cat. Hi, Mayor.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good. You have a cat too. I see your cat in the background.
Yeah, I don't, I blurred it, so now I don't know how to actually take it off, to be honest. But yeah, I have two of them. And we had, down here at the lake, at Morse Hill, there were, a pair of fox couple that had, four kits last year.
Aw.
So now when I let my cats out, um, it has to be kind of in the middle of the day, like after they've eaten their breakfast and and not in the afternoon because I'm seeing them on a daily basis around here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's a little nerve-wracking. Our cat, she's never really gone outside, although she likes to go out, but if the only time that she really goes out is if we're out there, on the deck or something, and then she comes
yeah,
out. But because yeah, this one she wouldn't last. He wouldn't last out there.
yeah,
Something would get you.
yeah.
Yeah, we saw a bear on North Valley Road yesterday. That was cool.
Oh wow.
Big, big, black, gorgeous
Oh.
bear. Almost coming up to where you're going to turn onto Buffum. So maybe
Uh-huh.
500 feet before that left-hand turn. He just was coming out and looked at us and then actually waited. And then we stopped and then he kind of went across, but
Yeah.
it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was looking at a TikTok this morning and it was something, it's like this whole little thing called Unhinged. And it's like, what's the most unhinged thing that you've ever encountered outside? And I started reading the comments and all these people had mountain lions. And so one of them said mountain lion scream. And so I was just like, I wonder what that sounds like. I clicked on it and years ago on Leonard Road, I was up at 5:30. I was always
Well, I think you froze, Mayor.
That's either a long dramatic pause or I think she's frozen.
It's got us on the edge. We're like, oh, I want to hear the rest of that story. And
Um,
Scott, you're muted.
I say I want to hear about this Massachusetts mountain lion.
I know, me too. Well,
Not that there's ever any lore around mountain lions in Massachusetts.
right. There's lots of stories.
Lots of
Lots,
stories.
lots of
It
stories.
can happen. There was one, right, that was confirmed. It was killed in Connecticut on the road, right?
Yeah.
So they do go long distances. Young males when they're, I think that one was from the Black Hills. They had it tagged, right?
I think something like that. Yeah. Well, and then sometimes aren't there some that are actually pets of people that have escaped and weird things like that too?
It happened. I remember when I was working at a refuge in Rhode Island, someone called up and said there were a bunch of flamingos out on the beach there at Moonstone. And it's like, are they plastic? But because I know they're real. And drove out there, and sure enough, there were a whole bunch of flamingos sitting on the beach. They had escaped from the zoo.
that is
Huh?
awesome.
Well, it can happen. Never say never.
Never say never. I would have been like, oh, maybe they were just painted swans, right? Or
Right.
somebody came out with their pink spray paint. Well, I hope that Mayor comes back. Um, I'm sure she will. She probably realized she had to reconnect or something. Um, but we can just we can get started.
Excellent. Madam Chair, one quick thing is right at 7:30, I need to take a break for about 3 minutes, just to do a quick call, just so you know.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. We okay, we'll see how things go. Maybe we can try and get the Atkins Reservoir Basin um project done before that, since you're gonna be kind of in and out. But
Okay.
All right, so anyway, it is 7:05 on April 24th, and I'm opening this meeting of the Shutesbury Conservation Commission, calling it to order, and this meeting is being recorded. First on the agenda is comments from the chair, and I don't really have any big comments that I can think of right now, so we can move on to number 2, which is review and vote on the minutes of April 10th. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes? Anybody have any changes or edits to the minutes? All right, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of April 10th, 2025.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the April minutes.
Great. Second?
I'll second.
Great. All right. Con,
Aye.
Douglas,
Aye,
Rowan,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. Next on the agenda is site visits update. Jan, do you have anything?
Yes. On April 15th, I went out with Roger and Mark to the library construction site. What was this meeting? Was this before then? That was the date of our last meeting, was the 10th? No, there's a sense of, this was on the 15th. The pond, the settling pond nearest to the road had breached more or less again because they've been repairing it with the guts out of the silt socks. In the winter, that was fine because those chips would freeze solid, and it worked for the brief rain spells that we had, but it isn't working now, and so they know they need to take care of that. They were dragging their feet a little bit because apparently during the repair, they're gonna use some sort of membrane. But given the rain that we wind up having, it doesn't, and how long it's gonna be before they repair those settling ponds, I didn't think that was a good idea. The west fence line, especially in the corner by the actual building, the silt socks had been kind of, well, the sediment has built up until it's overtopped the silt socks, saturated the silt socks, and it made its way out. The solution they came up with was very short term. They went along that fence line with a shovel and dug the depth of the silt sock away from the silt sock. Okay, so they created a little depression. And the problem is that the silt socks are already clearly plugged. You know, so I told them that was a good, very short-term solution, but they really did need to get those silt socks replaced in order to keep the water from going up and over them and taking silt outside the envelope. They marked everywhere where they thought silt socks should be replaced. It was fairly well marked on the 15th, and supposedly the company M&S that put in the curtains and the silt socks was coming to repair the erosion barriers that week, so the week of the 15th. I got a call from Marianne Antonellis on Monday, or was it Tuesday this week? We were supposed to go out on Tuesday. They'd notified her that they didn't get the replacement silt socks, so the job wasn't done, it wasn't redone. So we moved the next site visit from Tuesday of this week to Friday of this week. So any of the commissioners that want to join me at 3:30 on Friday, we're gonna go have a look. I chose that time to kind of put a little pressure on them to get the silt socks in, because they were supposed to have come. And then if they don't, we're supposed to get a fair amount of rain on Saturday, so I told them I'd come back on Monday. You know, I don't know. I don't know whether they just had a problem getting the stuff, or whether the company that was supposed to come install them dragged their feet, or what, but you know, we're in that funny place.
Jan, is it a site that you can access on Saturday? or is it locked up?
They lock the fences so you cannot go into the construction site. If you wanted to look, you could walk outside the fence and see. I think you could tell whether they
Okay.
did anything. So that's an equivocal yes.
Gotcha.
So the site visit's tomorrow, Friday at 3:30.
Yeah,
All right, I'll try and be there. I can only be there for a short period of time, but I would like to just go and say, show me the new wattles that you installed. Just
it's the
to,
same thing I'm
yeah,
gonna say, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we know right where to go. It's not like you have to do the cruise around the perimeter.
yeah, okay, yeah, I can be there for a bit at 3:30 tomorrow.
Cross your fingers that they took care of that.
Yeah,
'Cause I don't want to go back on Monday and find out something else. Monday.
yeah, well, even tomorrow, if they're not there yet, we can basically, we can issue them an enforcement right there
Well,
tomorrow.
I don't know if you would want to. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We're in a funny spot where they did a little temporary repair.
Ah,
And if that works, you know, if we don't get that much rain, it'll puddle behind the sock and it won't cause a problem. If we get a deluge, I don't know. I don't know if they'll be that lucky.
yeah, last I heard it's only a half an inch, but it's supposed to rain for a long time, starting Friday night, all day Saturday, but only about a half-inch accumulation, but
You know, they might get lucky. And I'd rather they got lucky at this point. Anyway, the next one was on April 18th. Mayor and I went over to 51 Shore Drive. The homeowner there is looking to construct a deck, a platform deck. It is all within the 50-foot buffer. It's sort of a standalone thing that they're gonna put on some platform things. I don't know what you call those things. And they really plan minimal ground disturbance. It didn't say it in their plan, their RDA, but they could do everything from constructing the deck and bringing it in to really almost anything you want to say to them. There's a slight grade on the on the front yard. I forgot to post the pictures. I don't know that they would help very much. This house is, if you're looking west, it's just to the east of Gary and Donna West's house, which we permitted a million years ago. It's on that little finger of an inlet, not on the lake. And it's right next to Pine Drive, if anyone's familiar with the roads right there.
okay, yeah, I know where that is.
The entire house, the whole property is within the 100-foot buffer. And the deck is certainly within 50 feet.
Okay, and they filed an RDA, right?
Yeah,
Or an NOI? Is it RDA? Well, they're coming to our meeting, our next meeting on May 8th.
Okay.
So, yeah, it'd be great to see the pictures. Either, you could just have them available for the meeting and we can look at them during the meeting. Or you could send them around if you want.
that might be easier for me.
Okay.
It doesn't show much. I mean, I took a picture, you know, the picture she provided was the one looking at the house, which didn't show you how close the water was. I stood where the deck would be and looked at the water, you know, I mean, the West house took a lot of their view.
That's too bad.
Well, and they're built out quite close to this inlet as well, so.
All right. Well, thanks for going on that site visit and we'll learn more about that project on May 8th. Any other site visits?
Until Friday.
What?
That's all until Friday, if you or anybody else wants to join. Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yep, I'll be there.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Jan. Next item on the agenda, land management update. Scott, do you have anything?
I don't have anything that I don't think is already on the agenda here for tonight, so we can, nothing to
Excellent.
report.
Excellent. All right, what time is it? Oh, it's 7:16. So on our agenda at 7:15 is discussion with the Historical Commission. And I see that Henry's here about metal detection policy. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for giving us an audience. We are in the Historic Commission coming up with some rules about metal detecting. And the impetus for this really comes from our chief of police who came and asked if we actually have a policy or regulation surrounding this. And of course, it's an issue that concerns us because typically there's, metal detecting often involves looting artifacts that are historical, whether they be colonial or pre-colonial. And so, we took the initiative to come up with some ideas about what that might look like based on other towns' policies. In case you're not familiar with this, metal detectors basically, as it says, detect metals beneath the ground, and people end up digging up the ground. And the reason I'm talking to you about it is because disturbance of the land involves your department, especially on conservation land or town property, which is what this is addressing mostly. It's information, it's in formulation right now, but we'd like to see this as not just a punitive kind of set of rules, bureaucracy, etc., but as an opportunity actually to educate people about, being responsible, why these things are important to preserve, as in the artifacts. And from your perspective, of course, you shouldn't be doing it in wetlands or whatever. And just having reviewed a few, regulations around the state, there are towns where the Conservation Commission is actually involved in this process. So that also is part of the motivation of my being here and just running this by you. I'd like to share half a page of bullet points, if you would permit.
Sure, Mateo, can you let Henry share?
It should be turned on, so you should have the share screen option.
Hello, Mateo.
Go ahead.
All right. Okay. So this is as far as we've gotten. So private property obviously is not our jurisdiction. But here are a few bullet points that I think are relevant. Again, you can see, archaeological, historical artifacts, we're very concerned about that. That they remain in the town. Digging on town property is prohibited. Again, this is also your realm. Written permission, again, this, I'm not sure if we would give them people permission. The ultimate authority here, obviously, would be by way of enforcement anyway, would be the police. I suppose the select board, I don't know, we haven't quite sorted that out, but some kind of authorization to conduct this on town land within a certain period of time. And, certain, whether or not ID is required. And the rest of it is pretty generic, pretty pro forma. This is, permission required on state parks. DCR absolutely prohibits the use of metal detectors on DCR property. And these are the laws and regulations that apply to metal detecting at a state level. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on this? How you might play a role in this, or whether you want to?
Yeah, so where it says,
Yep.
digging on town properties prohibited, but then there's written permission. Would the written permission be giving people, allowing them to be on town property and do this or not?
I presume so. I mean,
Okay.
this is, again, we can discuss. I mean, it could be absolutely banned. This is something that's very hard to police, obviously.
Right.
But at least this will be ultimately this will be on our town website. In places where it is visible, in case somebody wants to do this. This could be visible on your website, perhaps. I don't know.
I do have a question.
Yes.
I can think of at least one example where property owners were looking to find boundary markers.
Mhm.
And so indeed we're using metal detectors.
Mhm.
And is there going to be exception for that type of effort?
Well, yeah, well, that's why we have this one here written, some kind of permission to do it, a permit would be granted.
So in order to just find out where the boundary is, you have to get written permission.
Well,
Well, not if it's private land. If it's private land, you can
Now, the
do whatever
instance,
you want.
the instance I'm thinking about is land that abuts conservation land.
Mhm.
right. Well,
Well, I mean,
again, this is, remember, this is about metal detection. Strictly.
Maybe we need a definition in this.
Yep.
That explains the difference.
Well, the use of a metal detector in this case would be the.
Well, no, I mean, if it's a difference of purpose, if you're just trying to find a
Mhm.
property pin, that's not the same as you're trying to find the king's ransom and gold buried beneath your.
Right.
Well, that would be under private property, like above,
No, it's still, it's the example I'm giving.
right,
It was along conservation property, and, I mean, Mary, you might run into this someday.
right.
Trying to find the pin. Technically, you're making it so that in order to do it, you would need a permit, and that seems like something that would be something I'd find hard to comply with if I was just.
well, with most regulations, often there's, exemptions.
Of course.
So I could see if we're developing this, there would also be sort of a list of activities that are exempt and are allowed. And I would think trying to find property pins would be a good example.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay.
And then we could write it in if necessary. I mean, that's why we're here to get your feedback on it. The main focus again is the kind of metal detecting that looks for, treasures and that kind of stuff.
Right. So
Right,
maybe an exception for, with the written permission with care and control of the property must be obtained, and then, whatever, would conservation be the only commission that would have the care and control over the property, or would that be the select board? Like, how does that work? And
I don't know. This is part of the reason I'm here.
Well, we have care and control of conservation land.
Okay.
And there's sort of a few, in Shutesbury, a relatively short list of lands that are designated as conservation land. They were purchased or donated or whatever for the purpose of conservation, and on the deed and everything, they're under the care and control of the Conservation Commission. The rest of public lands are mostly under the care and control of the select board.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. So I think I think we should be involved in this, just so that there can be some sort of statement about conservation land particularly, because the digging and that kind of thing is really, even in some of our conservation lands have conservation restrictions on them, which have lists of activities that are allowed on conservation land and activities that specifically aren't. And I know that there's a very common one used about removing rocks, removing, anything. You're not really allowed to dig or remove anything from these particular conservation lands that have conservation restrictions on them. So it does get a little complicated. So I think we would want a sort of a section of these regulations, or wherever they end up being, that just really addresses conservation land.
Specifically refers to conservation land.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something that says like there, there are, defined town property, and saying that town property is either conservation property, which, where to go if you see it's Conservation Commission or conservation property. And then if it's land that would be strictly town property, which then you would have to go to the select board to have some sort of, so that they have some sort of input.
Yeah. I see that distinction.
And conservation lands, where would they find that map? Would it just strictly be, should they be contacting the land use clerk?
Yeah. Mateo, do we have a map right now that shows the conservation lands?
No, I don't know. I don't know that I have seen one. I believe there is a list, but I could probably track it down. It certainly would be easy enough to put together and publicize.
Yeah, that is a nice thing to have on our webpage, would be a map just showing the conservation lands. We can work on that, and we can have it on the conservation webpage.
Perhaps what I could do is send this to you, and you can have a chance to mull it over.
Yeah, sure. I see some other folks have their hands up. Bob?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it's a good idea to have the rules. And I think what a few people have alluded to, that you could maybe combine the fourth bullet point with the third with the fourth bullet point. Digging on town land is prohibited unless you have written permission within for land, and have the condition go on from that. I
Yep.
think there are legitimate reasons to do metal detecting that that the Historical Society may well agree with. That, say, some UMass archaeology professor wanted to do some research around some cellar holes on conservation land. I think that's something the commission would consider, as well as the historical committee. So I would be in favor of a permission system.
Yeah, and clear that there may be instances where we may have to review a situation as a historical commission, and perhaps as a conservation commission.
Yeah.
And then the conservation, oh, I'm sorry, Scott, you had your hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, the bullet point now, the fourth one, it says authorization to conduct metal detecting on town land. um, shall provide a time period for the detecting to be carried out, but, um, maybe there's certain conservation land that's not permissible just in general. Um,
That just adds another, again, this is largely based on what several other towns have done. They give you a time frame within which to do this. I gather that's kind of a way of, putting some kind of restriction on how long you can do it.
yeah.
That's all it is. It's just a time issue.
And maybe the police should be the first. I mean, you just said that she was concerned about that.
Well,
The
she
chief,
brought
but
it up.
maybe the police should be the first line of contact to then reach out to, to find out whether it's conservation land or town land, and then and just kind of give some sort of, roadmap for whoever wants to do this. Because I mean, you don't always know what is town land, like not every, I mean, Cole's land, it's all marked, a lot of them, but not all town land is evident,
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this?
Scott?
Yeah, well, thank you, Henry, for presenting here. I do think for the town-owned properties under the authority of the commission, I think we have a lot more jurisdiction there, certainly. And I do think some consistency and coordination with the select board on the rest of the town-owned properties would make sense. I just, I can't imagine we would want to promulgate our own regs for the properties that the commission is responsible for managing and have that be separate from the remainder of other town-owned properties. But I do think whatever we settle on in terms of what that might look like for consistency, I think that would be something I'd be in favor of. I don't know if the SHPO office from the state, if you all have coordinated with them too in terms of other protections for the Commonwealth for some of these properties and how we might word that. But certainly in terms of applying those general protections that may already be afforded from the state and thinking about how we could apply that here to town-owned properties, I think would make sense. But yeah, I think that is separate from other properties elsewhere that aren't under the authority of the commission to manage.
Who was that? Bob? Was it? Who just spoke? Sorry.
That was Scott. Me.
Scott. You mentioned you had a SHPO, was it?
Well, the State Historic Preservation Office.
Oh,
there's
yes,
a
of
SHPO
course.
office in every
Okay.
state, and I don't know if you all
Yeah.
coordinated with them.
Yes, I'm familiar with them. I'm on their list. Yeah.
But no, I just think to have, if there's certainly a way for us to consistently mirror the regs and protections that are already in the Commonwealth or in other properties owned by the town, I think for myself, I would be very much in favor of that. We haven't, I mean, it's a larger issue maybe for the commission. We haven't really talked about other regs and promulgating regs for town-owned land. And I think this ties to some of or under the authority of the commission. And that could get more complicated, but I do think there might be a way for this as a particular issue, just to kind of bring it forward together with other town-owned properties.
Yeah. Well, we're starting the conversation, I guess. And I mean, from our perspective, there's a larger question of archaeological digging for archaeological artifacts, and of course that's a much larger item.
Yeah.
And we're working on a policy regarding that. So we this is just one thing, and perhaps this would be a subset of that. I don't know.
Yeah.
As far as from our perspective.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me too, because I do think there are other, of course, a lot of archaeological resources that may not be, you know, they may be damaged or not through metal detecting, but through other means. So I think that sounds like a good approach.
Right. So I'm going to revise this and maybe send you a sample of a permit that might be used, and you can get back to us.
Yeah, that sounds great. I was thinking, I know in Amherst, there's a process for applying to do things on conservation land. There's a form and there's basically you fill it out and then you come to the Conservation Commission. So for all kinds of things, like if you want to have a wedding on conservation land so I see this as a little similar to that. There's sort of an application process and like you said, a permit that almost gets created. And so, yeah, whatever you put together, send it our way and we'll take a look and then maybe have you back at another meeting to see where we're at.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. All right. Next on the agenda is Mark and his CR.
Hi, folks.
Hello. Is Donna coming tonight? I know I told her to come, but I don't see her here. Do you know, Mark, if Donna's coming?
She hasn't made any comment to me either way, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, that could be something you could review with her after. I think over there, we've already reviewed everything except for the, excuse me, the gift to be given to me, but to the Conservation Commission. Nice tail.
My cat. It's not my tail.
Wasn't insinuating. It just came out of nowhere. So we were talking about possibly 7,500 instead of 10,000 last time, and that seemed to go across pretty well with the couple of people that were there last meeting. And that's the only thing I think we have left. I mean, there might be something else. Anybody wants to talk about anything, I'm happy to do so, but I think we've gone through it pretty thoroughly, and we're down to just the money. So I propose 7,500. If that works for everybody, that'd be great. Put that in the vote, or you can vote that separately and then vote the complete restriction, or however you want to handle it.
So just to review, we have all the pieces now, all the parts and pieces of the CR that are required by the state. And so, and this is the last piece that needs to be added. So if we're all in agreement with that amount, and then if folks feel like they've reviewed it enough too, if you have any questions for Mark right now, let's ask him, because what we really also can do, I feel like, is vote to accept the CR tonight. And then I was hoping Donna was going to be here just to direct us in terms of the signing of the document, because we have to sign it. I know the select board has to sign it, sort of the process moving forward just to get the document finalized. But she's not here. But it's not complicated. I've done some of these in Amherst. It involves getting signatures from a lot of people, and the last people to sign it is the DEP themselves. And then it comes back and then it gets recorded and all kinds of stuff. But the document itself has to have all its parts. And it sounds like Mark's finally pulled everything together that DEP requires, right?
Yes, and thankful to Berkshire Design Group for taking it on midstream and getting it done. Been fantastic. So I agree with you that we can discuss this, or you can discuss this afterwards with Donna as the procedure, but it sounds like you folks sign first, and then we bring it to the select, or I bring it to the select board with your signatures on it, and then they hopefully sign it, and then it gets shipped down to the state. That's how I understand it from the last conversation I had with somebody who's done a few of these. And yeah, so the first stop would be with you folks to take a vote and say yes or no, and then if we get a yes, then we go down to the select board. And so I guess I don't know if I present it to a select board or you folks do. That's a question I can't answer. Maybe that's a good one for Donna.
Yeah, I think it would be us. I was kind of hoping Donna would sort of usher it through. Somebody's got to be the
Yeah,
person who does all the communicating, brings the documents to the meetings. So I was hoping she would do that, as you know, she's got the experience with all the legal documents that need to be part of it. So
makes sense.
Scott, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. And thank you, Mark. I just want to say I really appreciate all the coordination and work on this. I think we've worked through all the iterations of the restriction itself, and as far as the money and for set aside for monitoring, I think the 7,500 makes sense to me, and I think this will be a nice addition to for conservation here in the town. And so I don't have any further questions, and I'm supportive of that track forward.
Anytime land can get conserved, it's a pretty good thing. So, and it's a win-win from both sides. Obviously, I ended up with a 4-acre buildable area, give or take. And I think that will be sitting sort of not in the middle, but close to that of a beautiful conservation area, and pretty much undisturbed. So I think it's kind of a cool way to make the land work. As the state says, it's the highest and best use, allowing some sort of a residential on it, and then being able to take a significant portion of it, which is what 3.5 times the size of the buildable area, and putting that into conservation forever. So I wanted to do it to get a building lot, obviously, but I'm also proud of the fact that we put that into conservation. I did 100 acres down in Sunderland a few years ago, which was a pretty nice one to do. Bought 100 acres with a couple of friends of mine, and we found it advantageous to put it into conservation. And the state eventually bought that one as well. And I've done a couple others. So it's always kind of nice as a developer or as a landowner and real estate person to be able to put some land in conservation.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's great. Okay, so what we need is we need a motion from the commission to accept holding the CR for I guess we'll call it lot H151. And also to
sorry about that. Yeah,
no, it's fine.
101 Leverett Road now.
Oh, it has the address. Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't want to interrupt you, but that's the newest edition.
That's great. So we need a motion from the commission to accept holding the CR for 101 Leverett Road and accepting $7,500 endowment as part of accepting the CR.
I so move.
Second?
I second.
Nice. Douglas,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. All right. Yay. That only took a year or two.
It only took 2 for the special permit, so it's not for the meek.
Thank you very much, Mark, for doing this. It will be a wonderful part of Shutesbury forever. So very grateful.
It's a cool feeling for sure. So I appreciate all your time and your help. And Beth, I'll hear from you regarding Donna and the next step in the process.
Yeah, definitely. Because I think you've sent us, we have the final final parts for everything, and I think
Yes.
Donna's been CC'd on most of that, so I'll check in with her and see where we go from here.
That'd be great. Thanks again, folks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Good night. All right. Well, that was exciting. I'm happy that that's done. Next on the agenda is to ratify emergency cert for Sand Hill Road culvert for the highway department. I can bring that up if you guys want to take a quick look at it. So I think at our last meeting, maybe not even at that meeting, but about right up close to when our last meeting was, DPW reached out that there was this culvert on Sand Hill Road, 18-inch or 12-inch. I think it's an 18-inch that was an emergency needing to be replaced. And I did a site visit with Dave, and it was literally that you stood on the top of the culvert was the surface of the road, and you could stand on it and it would go up and down. It was not a good situation. So I issued him the emergency cert, and the work's already been done. I went and looked at it. It looks fine. They didn't have barely any impact on the two edges on either side of where the culvert was, and they put it in at a lower elevation, so there's at least 6 inches above it for the road surface. So I'll just bring that up so you guys can take a quick look at it. If I can. There we go. Okay. Can everybody see the emergency cert? Yeah, okay. So this is the emergency cert form, Sand Hill Road. Culvert is collapsing under the road. The top of the culvert is at the road surface in some spots and can be pushed down by simply standing on it. And so then we just gave them a time frame of when they should do it. Work allowed was excavation of the road to remove the 12-inch damaged pipe, deepen the trench, place a new pipe, and cover it. Erosion control, straw bales to be placed in the downstream channel during excavation. That's it, and I think there was yeah, some pictures. This is one end of the pipe, and then right here you can see where the surface of the road is sinking down, some sinkhole kind of where the pipe goes, and that's where if you stood on it, it just flexed. And that's where it was. So just thought you might want to see that, but does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so it's already been issued.
Beth, I did have a question.
Okay,
It was
yes.
a 12-inch culvert, and we had talked about bumping them up to 18s. Was there a reason not to bump it up?
It didn't carry that much water. It didn't need to be bigger than 12. You know, there wasn't any real need for it to get any bigger. It just really needed to be replaced.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we need a motion. So with emergency certs, I don't know how many you guys have seen before, but you know, I can issue them under an emergency situation, but then the commission always ratifies them afterwards, just so that we have the kind of paper trail that you guys saw them. And So we need a motion to ratify the emergency cert for Sand Hill Road.
I make a motion to ratify the emergency cert for Sand Hill Road.
Okay, second?
I second.
Okay, Rowan,
I,
Fox,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
and Wilson. Aye. Great. All right. Now we are looking at since there's actually no times on the rest of these things, I think I want to just jump down to the vote on the request for determination of applicability for the Atkins Reservoir, just because I see Isabel is on the call. She's been on for a while. So this is for the Atkins Reservoir basin dredging project. So remember there's Isabel. We heard from Isabel and we closed the hearing. And then at our last meeting, we were going to vote, but we couldn't vote because we didn't have a quorum. We didn't have quorum because I have to recuse myself from this one. Jen, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, unless I missed it, I thought I was on the agenda a couple of items ago. So I'm not sure if I have been bumped to different place or I'm in the wrong night or.
No, you know what? You're in the right night. I think I'm looking at an old version of our agenda.
Okay,
So no, yeah, we expected you. I just looking at this old version, you weren't actually listed on there. But what we're gonna do right now really shouldn't take long. So
okay, I'm
after
here.
this,
Just
okay.
checking. Okay,
Thank you. Thanks
Yep.
for waiting. Have a number of things on our agenda tonight. So with the Atkins Basins, we closed the hearing and then we couldn't vote at our last meeting on the actual determination. So tonight I'd like to just take a quick look at the determination. And if you guys have any questions or changes, we can do that. So let me bring it up. No, no. I had it prepped, but okay. Can everybody see the determination?
I could not.
No?
We're
Not
seeing,
me.
we're seeing your browser.
Oh. How's that?
Yes.
Great. All right, so here is the determination. Amherst Department of Public Works. Town of Amherst Department of Public Works proposes, oh, wait a second. Your brain is not really working today. I need to recuse myself and Bob needs to be doing this, right, Bob? That's why I didn't have it pulled up because you guys were gonna pull it up.
Okay.
Ding, dang, nabbit. All
Yeah,
right,
I
I'm
don't
gonna
have,
recuse myself.
does Mateo have it to pull up, Beth?
Recording in progress.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, Mateo, you have it?
I do.
Um, Bob's on here twice, so maybe I think that's what the echo is.
Apologize. I apologize. I got logged off of my computer for some reason and substituted with the phone temporarily, so I'm back on the computer and I can see the determination. So Matteo, if you would please scroll down to the determination. Okay, so it's a maintenance dredging of the sedimentation basins and can you go down to the special conditions? Okay, and um Isabel, were you were seeking a positive determination, or sorry, negative determination, correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. And let's see, uh as far as special conditions, commissioners, we had mentioned that while we have the ability to require inspections or a peer review, we had decided not to do that. Is that the recollection of the Conservation Commission?
Yes.
Okay, good. And in that case, I think we would just go with the standard conditions that we issue for such a project. Is there anything else that the commission would like to see in this particular determination? Hearing nothing, Isabel, can you tell us about your in-house inspections? Will be taking place as far as sedimentation control and so on?
Sure. So inspections or the best management practices that will be in place.
Yeah, no, I have to say I was quite impressed by your presentation, and while it's got a lot of moving parts, you really had a good entryway and exitway and good protection. I was more interested in the what kind of reports that you would be doing in-house related to sedimentation control, and if that's something that the commission could be copied on.
Sure. Yes, my understanding is that we would typically have a construction observer on site throughout construction. I need to that it would be a question I would have to run by the project manager or the applicant who happens to be here. And if you have information about the agreement, Beth, um, about what we've talked about for observation.
Um, I think, I mean, typically we'll be requiring the contractor to be doing weekly inspections of all erosion control, and, you know, updating erosion control as needed and then submitting, weekly reports to, to us, but also to the Conservation Commission. I don't think
I don't
I,
think Ty and Bond will be doing on-site observation for this one.
um, that's not determined yet.
Right. That'll be sort of a construction phase
Yeah,
question, but the
yeah,
Conservation Commission can certainly be copied on all construction reports, which will be at minimum weekly.
yeah, we don't have the construction funding yet, so we don't know that, but that would be something that the commission can definitely include as a condition, is that they require, you know, weekly updates from site inspections, no matter if it's a contractor or a hired, consultant.
Can I ask a question? Um, so you, when Amherst requires the contractor to do inspections and submit weekly reports to the Concom in Amherst, is that covering just the Amherst parts of it? Or is that covering the entire project? Like,
Well, this project is entirely in Shutesbury.
it is.
It is, it's land that's owned by the town of Amherst.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Because it's part of
So,
that.
okay, so that,
Reservoir.
and I didn't go on the site visit, so I didn't understand that. Okay. So is it possible for us to get copies of those weekly reports?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that would help, right? To understand how the project is going.
And the conservation commissioners also will have, ability to access the site at any given point. That's a standard, uh, condition. I guess that's a condition of a notice of intent. But if the commission ever wants to do a site visit, certainly welcome to come visit.
Excellent. So, I would add those as special conditions, the right to inspect the site as well as be copied on any generated weekly reports related to sedimentation control and site condition. Um, uh, Commissioners, are there any other special conditions that you would like to see? Janice? Uh, Mayor?
Yeah.
Scott? Okay. I am not hearing that any reply, so
I do believe you all did request to remove hemlocks from the planting plan, is that right?
Yes, that's true. What was it replaced with? Or wasn't it? I think Jan said something about that.
Yeah, it was just more of the rest. You have multiple species there. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, that's
other-
right.
Other trees.
Sorry to jump in.
yeah, so that's kind of a detail that could certainly be included as well. So we'll count that as a third special condition. If there's no further discussion, my recommendation would be that we hear a motion to approve the determination along with those three conditions we mentioned.
I make a motion to approve with the conditions that were listed.
Do I have a second?
My second.
Seconded by you. Okay, great. I will now do a roll call vote and we'll start with Jan.
Aye.
Mayor
Aye.
and Scott.
Aye.
Douglas, aye as well. Sorry, Beth, you don't get to vote. Um, and thank you, Isabel, for your good work on this. It was a very well thought out plan for a rather extensive operation. I think a rare firm would be able to do this as a determination. So I think you did a superior job. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for all of your time.
Great. And with this, I will relinquish the throne back to Beth.
Oh, but you were doing so well. And my cat is back. Okay, great. Oh, Mateo, is that your screen that's being shared? Thank you. Jennifer,
Hey,
you're up. Sorry for making you wait.
no problem. I just got a little confused that maybe I had misunderstood something.
Yeah, no, that was my fault. I had an old copy of the agenda. We added
We
you
are.
at the last minute.
Here we are. So hello, everybody. Thank you for this time. And the last time I was with the commission, I gave you a little overview of what our Lake Wyola Stormwater Erosion Task Force had been up to. Bob, who's on your commission, is also on the task force, so perhaps you hear from him occasionally. If you just a very brief, rooted in what we are about is taking the FERCog watershed-based plan, which outlines a lot of recommendations under several categories to begin to implement both best management practices of structural interventions, maintenance and management policies and public education to start to address sedimentation from surrounding lands into the lake and into and around the lake. So when I was with you last time, I talked about our task force having studied and isolated a few what we were calling drainage systems. And as we started to get into that and the complexities of that and moving back and forth between our observations and thoughts about it and the FERCOG plan, we ended up endorsing their primary recommendation, which is to obtain an engineering study, hydraulic and hydrologic study, and a fluvial geomorphic study of the Fisk Brook area. So kind of a two-part engineering study. And then we're also now developing management and maintenance practices and public education recommendations. As far as those engineering studies, this approach was also endorsed by the select board, and we obtained a couple of estimates from some engineering firms. One proposal was outstanding, and we have recommended that. And in the meantime, Joe Comerford's office got the attention of the select board about the Rural Development Fund grants and asked, that Shutesbury should be applying for this. Are there projects that Shutesbury thinks fits the criteria? And it turned out that our project fits very well within the infrastructure and sort of climate resiliency category, although it's called infrastructure, road safety and flooding and things like that. So it's not directly tied to sedimentation, but we can fit within their guidelines quite well, and have been working with FERCOG on developing a draft of that application. It's due on June 4th. And so I'm here with you all to see if you would consider writing a letter of support for these engineering studies that would be looking at drainage. They'd be modeling out systems, drainage conditions into hundreds of years in the future. They'd be building climate resiliency recommendations and mitigation measures into the study. So we not only would have the analysis of what's going on, the actual locations for projects, conceptual designs and schematics of appropriate projects for managing stormwater runoff, as well as the whole phenomena of what's going on in Fisk Brook watershed with beaver dams and landforms and things like that. That's a much more complex area because there are multiple jurisdictions involved in that, but that wouldn't affect the conduction of an engineering study. So the only other new piece is that also, FERCOG did the watershed-based plan. They met with our task force, and we talked at length about what we were up to and how we were trying to move their plan forward. They suggested that the town apply for their direct local technical assistance, and Shutesbury was chosen as one of their towns, and our project specifically was chosen for FERCOG to provide technical assistance to the task force in both application writing, and they will be conducting a series of public education seminars and workshops. FERCOG will. We're going to start planning that in the summer. That's part of their scope of work. I think they said 3 to 4 workshops that they could begin to do things with, as many people as we could round up as far as the effects of stormwater, what people can do on their own properties, what the town can be doing, how everybody can start working together, etc. The last update is that we've met also with the Lake Wyola Association, who has a big role in all of this, and they are on board as partners, and they're on board to participate with the town in this application for the Rural Development Fund. grant that would cover the engineering study costs in total, should we get it, but we won't find out until October. So that's why I'm here, is to see whether the commission would consider writing a letter of support, which would go to the select board and to the town administrator and would be attached to this application, which is due on June 4th.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I mean, I think we'll take a vote and hear from other folks. I think that all sounds great, and it's good to know that hear that the Lake Wyola Association is joining in and would be, for example, attending some of those workshops and kind of just learning new ways of how because they really do manage the roads and things over there. So that all sounds great. We'll see what the commission, but I wouldn't mind drafting the letter, and then the commission can review it or whatever, but I think to draft it, could we get a copy of the grant application?
Yeah, I think that should be fine. It's in process now. One of the reasons why I was hoping to meet with you before next week is that next week I leave for a month. So I will be returning with 10 days to go before the application is due. And I've turned everything over to Haley. I've given her a whole briefing. She has all these materials, but the FERCog rep, Tamsin Flanders, and I are fine tuning the maps that go in this application. So I will have it next week for sure. And
hey, even just sort of
I could give you the
draft narrative, just to give me an idea of what it is about to write in the letter.
Yeah, it's a pretty involved application, but I could give you the abstract and the narrative description.
Perfect.
And that will set it up. You know, it doesn't, like I said, it's not, there is a lot there on climate resiliency in terms of the scope of work. It probably is tweaked to err towards public safety, road conditions, flooding, potential flooding, things that don't directly talk about sedimentation and ecosystem value and wetlands protection and things that the commission is about. But we think that it fits within their infrastructure category, and we could really make it work. So it might not hit all the points that the commission is keyed in on, but I wouldn't think that it would be a problem issuing some support, because we can't deal with sedimentation without doing these engineering studies in the first place.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's very important.
They will be the thing that sets it up for the actual construction of infrastructure. So
Yeah.
Bob, did I miss anything?
I think you did a really good job, both with the presentation and as our chairwoman.
All right, well, as you guys discuss it among yourselves, Bob can fill you in because he's got all the details for sure. And I'll send you a couple of things before I leave, Beth.
Okay.
And the date that, you know, probably Haley would appreciate it getting it before the end of May, if that's possible.
Okay. Yeah, no, that sounds great. And Bob, if you want to actually write the letter, since you know more about it.
Yeah,
that might be.
I'm worried would I be conflicted because I'm on multiple boards?
I mean, it's a support letter for the application that's coming from the whole town, right? Or is the application coming from your committee?
No, it's coming from the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think so in the end, whatever you write, Bob, is going to be signed by the Conservation Commission. You know, and we'll review it too. You know, that you can bring it to one of our meetings and we can all look at it, and if everybody likes it, we'll.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, it does not, I don't think at all, it has to be a very lengthy letter, you know. So shall I give it to Bob then, some points that I think would be good to include?
Do you have time, Bob?
I'd be happy to.
I'll give it to whoever you tell me to give it to.
Sounds like Bob's willing to do it. I love
Bob.
delegating.
Yay, Bob, go. All right, I'll take care of that. I really appreciate your openness to that and the time tonight. So thanks so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's
Before you
wonderful.
go, Jennifer, one thing I did want to just to address with the commission. Jennifer did a super job. The committee members were all very dedicated and would show up in the rain for different events and so on. And at a wide variety of people from the Wyola Association. We had a select board member who showed up in 2 days in a row in the rain, which is something I've never seen happen in any of the towns I've worked in. And we had DPW people kind of show us exactly on the roads how water moves. So I was very impressed with the level of dedication to this project by this subcommittee. It was a real pleasure to work with them.
Great. Likewise, I've had a good time with everybody, so we're moving along.
Oh,
Great. That's
Okay.
great.
All right. Well, thank you
Good
so
work.
much.
Okay, thanks for
Okay.
coming. Have a
Bye-bye.
good night. We should probably just take a quick vote that we agree to submit a support letter for the grant for the so they call the sedimentation group. What are they? I don't even know their name, but
I have it on my agenda. It says Jen Wallace, Lake Wyola Stormwater Erosion Task Force.
there we go. So a motion to issue a letter of support for the grant application from that group.
Motion to submit a letter of support to the Lake Wyola Stormwater Erosion Task Force.
Second,
Second.
Their application, yeah.
all right, Fox,
Aye.
Douglas,
Hi.
Khan,
Hi.
Rowan,
Hi.
and Wilson, aye. Great. All right, the last thing on the agenda, which is kind of the biggest thing on the agenda, is the bundled NOI order of conditions. So I put a draft set of order conditions together. Looks like there's nobody here from FERCog. They sent some comments, which I can show you guys. I guess they were all too busy tonight to come to the meeting, but and I think I emailed you guys the draft order of conditions too, but let me bring it up. I can find it. All right, can everybody see the draft order of conditions? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, is it big enough? All right, so what I'm calling this a comprehensive order, because it's a bundled NOI, so I'm just calling it a comprehensive order of conditions or a comprehensive permit. So on the right hand, there are some comments from FERCog about some things, and I've started sort of addressing some of their comments. But some of the things I wanted to point out. So we're basically saying that this permit is for specific activities, only in riverfront, buffer zone, aura, and land subject to flooding. So we say that. We say that no work is allowed under this permit in any areas that are priority or estimated habitat. We also mentioned that minor activities within buffer zone, riverfront, or the aura, as specified by both the state and then also in our regulations, that are sort of things that are already allowed because they're listed minor activities, that those don't need to be sort of approved under this permit and go through any of the processes that are discussed in this permit. So this permit's really for other activities that are in riverfront or buffer zone, that are DPW type maintenance activities. We state that it has to be, all the work has to be located in the town right of way. or private roads that are currently maintained by DPW. This permit's valid for 5 years, which is a little different. A lot of orders or conditions are only 3 years, but you can issue permits for longer. And for these comprehensive permits, it's just more typical to do 5 years. And the first condition is that any work that DPW proposes under this comprehensive permit has to come before the commission in a meeting and also in writing in sort of what we're going to call their annual project list. So they'll create this list. They'll come to a meeting. They'll also provide it in writing. It should include, yeah, I said descriptions and maps of work locations, just so that when they come to us, they're giving us a little bit of information so that we have something to base our decisions on. And then this is the part we talked a bit about delineation when we were looking at the notice of intent. So what I've said is work to be performed, work is to be performed, where work is to be performed. Jurisdictional resource areas must be delineated within the town right of way. And it's up to the sitting Conservation Commission to decide whether the delineation is done by a member of the commission or a private wetland consultant. A formal delineation of resource areas near areas to be mowed is not required as long as the expansion of the mowed area is not proposed. So that's kind of what I came up with. And if you guys don't like that, or if we want to change it, I'm all up for it. It was just sort of a way that I thought that we say that they do need to delineate where they're going to be doing their work. However, because the work is only allowed in the right of way, and because we can't have people delineating on private land, that's just not something. So really, the only delineation that can be done is on public land. And then I just thought, well, whoever the Conservation Commission is that particular year when they come forward with their project list, I guess I kind of feel that it could be up to the commission as to whether the delineation is done in-house by a commissioner, or if the commission wants to hire somebody, or basically DPW, the town, wants to pay to have a consultant delineate. What do you guys think?
Bob here, I think that's a good idea. You wouldn't want them necessarily to self-delineate, and you wouldn't want the commission to always be obligated to go out and do it, because it might just not work that somebody could be out there. It might be too complicated, and that would be another case where you would want a consultant to do it. So I think it builds in the necessary flexibility in that particular paragraph.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, it gives the sitting commission the options.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, good. And then here's the list of work that may be permitted under this permit. And then I just kind of clarified that by saying suitable work to be included in the annual project list brought to the commission for review and approval. And this is the same list that was in the NOI, except I changed some of the language. Here's some comments from FERCog. So this is where we're talking about the difference between a stream that really is just carrying stormwater versus a stream that is technically like jurisdictional under the state. And we wanted to kind of try to find a way to distinguish between those two, and then allow DPW to do cleaning out of stream beds that are more just for stormwater drainage. So what I said was water conveyances not within the jurisdiction of the state, however, considered a jurisdictional stream under the Shutesbury bylaw. And then I had where 100% of the stream's flow originates as road runoff, may be maintained by grading, cleaning, mowing, changing the dimensions to accommodate site conditions. They added that. Replacement and repair of stone/vegetation. So I was trying to sort of clarify what type of stream we're talking about, where they would be allowed under this permit to do the grading and the cleaning and the mowing. FERCog changed it to where the stream's flow is predominantly road runoff. So that's close. I was kind of going for it has to be 100% road runoff, but sometimes that's hard to determine.
I like
So I
the
don't
new
know.
language. I think-
You like what FERCog put in there?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I think it just makes it a little bit more, if you're looking at a stream and you're trying to figure out, is this 100% water coming off the road? It's hard to figure it out. So predominantly road runoff. And then, why is this not? There we go. And then that same language would go right here. They didn't make the change to it, but it would be in this, in here too, where we're saying that type of a stream, not jurisdictional under the state, jurisdictional under the bylaw. With that type of stream, which we can change it to what FERCog added, the language FERCog had, is where they can replace a culvert up to a diameter of 18 inches.
yeah,
Under
I
this
like
part.
that captures what we were talking about.
Yeah. Yep. And I may add some of that language here where I think again with culvert head walls, end walls, replacing them. I think again, we may want to, what do you guys think, limit that to these type streams, again, the ones that are only jurisdictional under the town and are predominantly road runoff. I could have the same language up with G. Okay.
I
That's what
guess
I'll
that's
do.
a funny one to me. I mean, it kind of depends what the repair entails, right? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, head walls, to me, anytime you're doing anything with a head wall, you're right there on top of a stream.
Yeah, but does repair mean adding gravel where it's been eroded out, or does it mean concrete? Yeah, I don't know what that, maybe we need a definition or something, because I'm not sure what that means.
I think it could mean any of those things. It could be a small repair, you know,
In
where
which case,
they're,
I would think you'd want them to be able to go ahead and do that, but if it's a, jackhammer out the old cement or something, that's a whole nother matter.
yeah. Yeah, to me,
Maybe what you want to do is make sure they bring those forward so you know what they're talking about.
yeah. I guess I just feel again, like if it's just stormwater and they're making those repairs, first of all, the head wall for I would think any head wall for a conveyance that's just for stormwater is going to be relatively small. Whereas the head walls for more perennial streams, and those can be much larger, which in the end, if you're going in and repairing it, it's a larger project, you have more of a chance of impacting the stream itself. But I mean, so this would allow them to do the repair or replacement for streams that are considered stormwater, really.
Okay,
You know,
Yeah.
and then for the larger streams where the head walls are larger and there'd be more work involved, they would need a separate NOI.
okay.
And then the rest, this is all stuff that was in the notice of intent. So these things are all allowed. And then these are things that are not permittable under the permit, therefore require a separate notice of intent. And
Wait a
again, this
minute.
is,
Wait a minute, we zip past beaver deceivers above in 3. It's a little higher. Wait a minute. I think we might have passed.
there it is.
again.
It's, oh, repair, maintenance, and cleaning of beaver deceivers and associated structures.
I'm glad that's there. I'm cool with that sentence. The only question that I seem to remember was some issue about where the detritus was placed or disposed of. Does anything need to be said about that?
We could add that there. There is a sentence somewhere. So here where we're talking about grading, cleaning, mowing, does not include stockpiling of material, soil and gravel resulting from maintenance should be removed. No, that's not it.
Well, that actually kind of works.
Yeah, well, we can put, we can definitely put, because it's, I think I saw somewhere else during in here under like maintenance. Like what you remove has to be removed from the site, but we can put it here too. Repair, maintenance, and cleaning of beaver deceivers and associated structures. Removed debris must be placed in an upland location outside of resource areas. Is that good? All right, and so now there's what, just want to include examples of things that are not permitted under this comprehensive permit and need their own notice of intent, just for clarifying. It's basically kind of anything new, if they're going to build a new road, if they're going to build a new stream crossing, another new water conveyance, upgrades of culverts larger than 18 inches, conversion of grass swale to stone or pavement, stream culvert replacement. So there's where we've got the larger culvert replacement. They've got under low flow. That's good. Bypass pumping and all of these.
When are we planting non-native vegetation?
That one is funny because the FERCog asked of that, and so planting, if not, why is that even there? Right? Well, there's the question of there's things that are non-native, but they're not invasive. I always think of the catalpa trees in Amherst. There's a lot of catalpa trees all over Amherst. They're beautiful. Everybody thinks, look at that cool tree. What is it? Oh, it's a catalpa. Those are not native. But they're not invasive either. They're just something that, a lot of the, what do you call them? Like town trees, right away trees, in the olden days, they would plant some of these sort of more different varieties of trees in the older towns, like Amherst is a good example. Unfortunately, the maple with the big, what's the maple that has the really large leaves that is invasive?
Those red ones.
Norway?
Yes, in Norway, there's a lot of those in Amherst too, and those were just planted by people because people thought they were great, but in the end, they're not native and they are invasive.
Well,
Um,
I don't mind naturalized stuff, but I guess if we're planting something new and we're telling town residents that they're only supposed to be planting native stuff, it seems like that should also be native.
yeah, I don't mind getting rid of it. Getting rid of this whole thing, planting of non-native vegetation. I don't think we want to promote it, actually.
We might want to in the long range for climate change for all the things that are going to die and you got to replace, but I'm not sure if that's there for that reason.
Nope. All right, let's get rid of that. Um,
What is a splash pad plunge pool? And I've heard of rock aprons, but I don't, why are those all in the same category?
they're kind of like the a stormwater outfall or even the outfall of a culvert. So where the water's coming out of a pipe and you don't want the water to erode the dirt that's around the end of the pipe, you build
Uh-huh.
sort of like an apron or a splash pad. They're just almost like different names. Plunge pool is kind of the opposite of that, is that you don't actually put sort of almost like a concrete floor or apron. You actually dig down so that the water lands in a deeper pool instead of eroding, you know, the size of the stream as it's coming out of a pipe.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. All right, and then after that list of things that
Wait, one more.
Yep.
L is herbicide treatment. Should we just add pesticide?
Yeah, do we want to add fertilizer too, maybe?
Yeah, maybe any kind of chemical applications.
Yeah. Organic. Well, how's that?
Does that allow for manure spreading?
Well, that's the difference between inorganic and organic. Um,
Yeah. I'm just wondering, do we care if we're putting that near some runoff location?
um,
Yeah, I'm good with it. Just
yeah,
asking.
yeah. Um, I mean, I can imagine, I don't know if DPW uses manure to fertilize anything. Yeah, we could ask for NOI for that too.
Yeah, it's gonna be rare, I imagine.
Yeah. I think the herbicide one would be the most used. All right, so then after that list of things that require a separate NOI, we just get into some of the conditions that are more common with any project. But I tried to make them more general because this isn't for a specific project. It's for a whole bunch of projects. But saying that we can inspect the sites, that the superintendent needs to provide copies of this permit to people doing the work so that they understand the conditions, like for erosion control and things. Erosion control needs to be installed. The superintendent should let us know 48 hours before work begins. Then a bunch of erosion control, the typical erosion control conditions. Needs to be inspected. We can have them modify erosion control. Debris piles need to be covered. No leaky equipment. Nothing to be buried on site. Construction should avoid high surface water. And then stabilizing slopes when you're all done. Here's our typical pesticide, herbicide, fungicide comment. Can't be used in the buffer zone unless you have an invasive species management plan.
Maybe we did not need it above then.
Well, above is kind of saying whether or not you need to submit a notice of intent. I almost want to take it out here because these are conditions for people who can get, for projects that can get permitted under this permit. That list that we were looking at are projects where we're saying you need to submit a separate notice of intent because we want to see one. So I think this is one of those comments that doesn't really apply to these projects. If they're using pesticides or herbicides, they need a separate NOI.
In that case, you might want to add fungicide above.
Right.
Okay. All right. That's it. Permissible. Permittable. It's a word, right?
I wondered about that.
Permittable, not permittable. Not permissible? No, we can't get a permit, so it's not permittable.
Or maybe they mean permit.
Some examples of work requiring a separate notice of intent, i.e. not permitted or
Yes.
or cannot be permitted under this comp. I cannot be permitted under this comprehensive permit.
I think it's just one T.
Permitted. It didn't get underlined.
It didn't. No, it didn't.
Maybe it's two T's. I don't know. I'm gonna leave it as two. All right, does anybody have any like changes or concerns or you know, and if people feel like you guys want to look at this again, and we, you know, do a final
When would
vote
they
on it
start?
at our next meeting. What?
When would they start? Like, what is
Well,
what is their?
Well, this is sort of this overall permit for the Department of Public Works.
Right.
So there's no specific project. What it's really requiring is that going forward, they're gonna every year, probably in the spring, put together a project list of projects that kind of meet what this permit says is allowable under this permit. They would make that list, they would come to us, and we would go through it with them. So what this permit is saying is like, these types of projects are permittable under this permit. You don't have to do a separate notice of intent or permit for this type of work. The DPW doesn't have to. So there isn't a specific project that they're working on. It's more, it's this kind of overall permit for a lot of the operation and maintenance that they do all the time.
I wonder if there is a value of,
Right. But I thought
if
the
they-
FERCog was gonna come in and work with them to, details about what they wanted to accomplish, and then, wasn't that
FERCog has grant money to
right?
work with DPW sort of on I think some new ideas of doing ways of doing like dirt road maintenance and stuff like that. And one phase of using that grant money to kind of just educate them almost was to get this permit in order with the Conservation Commission.
I'm wondering if there would be some value if they've done this elsewhere or if they have thought it through, what a project list would look like. So when they come to the commission, it would have, X number of projects, but what type of information would be included on the list to make it easier, so you don't have to go back to the well over and over again to get enough to make a decision.
Yeah, we can expand on, where's that? That's the first condition, I think. This project list must include work descriptions and maps of work locations. That was all I put in there, but we can expand on that.
Maybe
know?
a little bit about what you hope to get out of the work description, like what kind of, I don't know, what kind of tools or what kind of stuff is needed, for a
Like
better
equipment
idea.
they're gonna use.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what they're gonna be up to.
must include work descriptions. All right, I'll work on that, but yeah. Things like equipment to be used,
If they got any heavy equipment, if they're just using weed whackers, if they're gonna be bringing in
Yeah.
gravel or, I don't know,
Yeah.
Whatever.
what
whatever
kind
they
of
need to
erosion
know.
control they're gonna use.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll expand on that.
just so they have a better idea of what to put down.
Right, and the reason I even was like, we should put something in there is because I started imagining Dave just showing up with a list, like
Yeah, a
10
road
projects and
culvert.
like
Yeah.
one sentence, or not even a sentence, just take out this culvert.
Well, an
or-
interesting thing you could do, it doesn't really work, but like that's the Sand Hill culvert job you just did an emergency cert for. That's not a
Mhm.
great one because technically that had to come in anyway, but maybe they wouldn't have, right? This would have fallen under this.
Yeah.
So if it falls under this, maybe just write that up so they would know what you're looking for. Anyway, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think we need to expand on it and maybe even some bullets right in here with what they need to provide for their work description.
Yeah,
In
put in a
order for
sample
us to-
form or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, just
we could create a form.
Well, and you could do it with maybe that Sand Hill as an example. So
Yeah.
they know how to write it up, so you can look at it and go, yeah, no.
Yeah. I think a lot of times with those emergency certs, you ask, that's exactly what you're asking for is, so I can write this up. Give me a short description of how you're gonna actually, do the work.
Yeah, just make it
Um,
easier so they don't have to keep reaching,
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'll make that change. But then I'm just wondering if you guys feel like you had enough time, because I got it to you today, because I was still writing it today at work. If you want some more time to read through this, and because we don't have to necessarily vote on it tonight, let's see, we closed the public hearing. And I wish somebody from FERCog was here actually, so that we could ask them if it's okay to not approve it tonight, because you are supposed to approve orders or conditions within 21 days of closing a hearing, unless the applicant's okay with extending that. I can always talk to them. I don't know, do you guys feel like you want to read through it more and vote at it the next meeting, or are you ready to vote right now?
I'm ready to vote.
I'm ready to vote.
Okay. Jan?
Yeah. I mean, I read it as you scrolled.
Perfect. All right, well, so then, what we can do is it can be a motion to issue this order condition with the changes that we talked about tonight. And I'll go in and make those additions that we were just talking about. And I'll also fix up some of the stuff, FERCog's comments. All right, so sounds good. If there's no more discussion, I guess I'll take a motion to issue with the changes we talked about tonight.
I'd like to make a motion that we issue with the changes that we discussed tonight.
Second?
Second,
All right. Douglas,
Aye.
Rowan,
aye.
Khan,
Aye.
Fox,
Aye.
and Wilson. Hi. All right. It's 10 of 9, and I'm wondering if folks want to look at the regulations at all, or if we would prefer to maybe have a special meeting again where we just try and bang out what's left of the regulations.
I go for the second.
You go for the second choice.
I'll second Mary Fox to do it at a later date.
Yeah. Do you guys want to do a special meeting? So our next meeting is on the 8th of May, which is really only 2 weeks. So we're just,
Could we meet, like, how long do you think we need to do it? Maybe we could meet earlier,
yeah, I like that idea.
like at 6 rather than later at.
Yeah, I like that idea. Just dedicate the first hour to just
Yeah.
look at the regs. Okay, let's try that.
Sure.
Can everybody do that on the 8th?
Yes.
I can.
All right, great. Let's try that. Because we really don't have much left of the regs. I think it's we're almost done, so that would be great. All right. No unanticipated business. Does anybody have anything else they want to share? No. All right.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Great. Second.
Second.
All right. Douglas,
Aye.
Rowan,
Aye.
Khan,
Aye.
and Fox.
Aye.
And Wilson. Aye. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good one.